A hush falls over the audience. Welcome, everyone. We are just so happy you're able to join us tonight, and we will start. Ask you all to rise for the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. And again, I welcome all of you to our 18th Annual Awards Night. I'm Chief Compan. I'm honored and humbled to be the CEO of this wonderful group of law enforcement officers. And it's an opportunity for us tonight as the Edmonds Police Department to recognize our own members as well as to recognize members of our community for their special contributions to our law enforcement mission over the last year. This week is National Police Week, and in 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation designating today, May 15th, as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. Each year we pause to recognize the over 900,000 law enforcement officers that serve across the United States. In particular, we remember the more than 21,000 law enforcement officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty since the first recorded line of duty death in 1786. In 2018, 158 law enforcement officers and corrections officers lost their lives. That was a decrease from 2017, thankfully. So far this year, however, 42 officers have given their lives in the line of duty. And since Washington became a state in 1889, 292 officers have been killed in Washington state. The most recent being Kittitas County Deputy Ryan Thompson on March 19th and Cowlitz County Deputy Justin DeRosier on April 14th, 2019. That's why you will see the uniformed members of the department wearing the black band across the badge today in recognition of those fallen officers. Before we proceed, I would like to recognize a group of fabulous volunteers who assist us regularly in our mission, and those are volunteers that are part of the Edmonds Police Foundation. And tonight, we have with us Kimberly MacArthur. Kim, would you please raise your hand? And seated in the back, I think they're all back there together. This isn't church, you know, you guys should have sat a little farther up front instead of way in the back. Mark Marsh, who's retired sergeant from the Edmonds Police Department. Gail Welfringer. Gail, thank you. Celia Valentine, she's there. And here in spirit, and we'll talk a bit more about this gentleman later on in the program, retired Edmonds Officer Bill Nelson, here with us tonight, as I said, in spirit. So assisting me with this evening with the award ceremony are, to your right, Assistant Chief Jim Lawless, followed by Assistant Chief Don Anderson, and to my immediate left, Sergeant Shane Hawley. And our police chaplain, Mr. Phil Ossink, is here with us this evening, and I call on him for our invocation. Phil, thank you for joining us tonight.
I would like, at the risk of repeating what Al just shared with us, since our last observation a year ago, we also would add to that Police Officer Diego Moreno from the Kent Police Department, and then Deputy Sheriff Ryan Thompson and Deputy Sheriff Justin DeRosier have given their lives in the line of duty. And then we just do want to remember our good friend, if you're not familiar, that Bill Nelson is very seriously ill with cancer and can't be with us tonight, so we want to remember Bill as we pray together. Please pray with me. Almighty and most merciful God, we come tonight remembering especially those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. We pray that you will continue to bring comfort and peace to their family and friends who grieve their passing in a very personal way. We thank you for the thousands who serve selflessly and sacrificially so that we might enjoy civic peace. We ask you to watch over them and guard them as they serve. We thank you for those who will be honored this evening for doing their job in an extraordinary way. Thank you also for citizens who are willing to step in to render assistance and support. May their example of concern for others inspire all of us to be more thoughtful and attentive to those around us in need. We pray especially tonight for Bill Nelson. We ask you to be near to him and his family. We remember with deep gratitude his words and acts of encouragement that have strengthened us all in our life and our work. We pray these in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Phil. And Phil, just as a little side note, has been such a supporter and such a gift to the department over many years. And we thank you, Phil, once again for being with us tonight. So over this past year, as I alluded to already, many of our officers have exhibited outstanding examples of teamwork. I mean, they do that every day, but tonight we're here to recognize the exceptional service and recognize members of our department and the community. And I'm going to turn the program over now to Sergeant Shane Hawley, who will read the narratives that we have and will assist us with the awards tonight. Sergeant Hawley.
Do you want to go that way? There you go. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Chief. The first award for tonight is the Citizen Service Citation. Never fails, your PowerPoint doesn't work when you want it to. Luckily, I have a PowerPoint guy. Thank you, David Rohde. The first award category this evening is the Citizen Service Citation. It's awarded to citizens whose assistance to the police department was given without regard for personal welfare, or which had a positive bearing on the outcome of an incident and contributed to the furtherance of law enforcement in the community. And our first recipient tonight is Kenneth Barber. If he's here, I'd ask him to please come up. I don't think he RSVP'd. He may not be with us tonight, but we'll go through this on his behalf. So for most of us, when we make a routine trip to the grocery store, it starts with a shopping list. Usually that's milk, bread, eggs, some treat that you never expected really to come home with. But one thing that isn't on that list is tackling a suspect running away from the police. But that's exactly what Kenneth Barber found at the checkout line. And this all happened about 1 o'clock on March 4th of 2018. Kenneth was minding his own business when store security and Edmonds Police Officer Bauer tried to stop a shoplifting suspect. As soon as the officer told the woman she was under arrest, she took off running. And Kenneth saw this go down and didn't decide to stay on the sidelines. He tackled the woman to the ground and held her there until Officer Bauer could get there to put her in handcuffs. But you don't have to take my word for it, because we actually have the video and you get to watch it in action. Cue. So that's Officer Bauer, and you'll notice he's playing Ring Around the Rosie with the shoplift suspect at the produce aisle there. And that's her standing on the other side. Oh, there she goes. She takes off. Watch real quick. There it comes. Oh, right there. And Officer Bauer's gone around the other side. It's kind of hard to see on a screen this size, but he held her there until Officer Bauer could get there. All right. You can go forward one more. There you go. So thanks to his help, we were able to arrest the suspect, who ended up pleading guilty to theft and resisting arrest. And we're hoping that Pete Carroll and the Seahawks are watching tonight, because I think they have need at linebacker and he may have a job here pretty soon. So because of his willingness to get involved, we're pleased to present Mr. Kenneth Barber with 1, a job application, and 2, the Citizen Service Citation. We'll put it in the mail. So at this time, I'd like to call up Miss Anita Scoville. Hello, it's nice to finally meet you, and you can come right up there with them. Yep, there you go. Perfect. So apparently you need to be prepared for crime fighting when you go grocery shopping, because our second story also starts at a grocery store. Anita Eagle Eye Schofield, as I've named you, was out shopping when she spotted a bicycle leaning up against a trash can outside the store. She realized it was an expensive bicycle to just be leaning up against a trash can and not secured with no one watching it. She also recognized that it was similar to a bike she'd seen recently posted as stolen on a local app. A man came out of the store, rode off on the bike while she was watching, and she thought this was suspicious enough, and she decided to call 911. Officer Kinney arrived, and she flagged him down and pointed out the man who was still standing with the bicycle at the bus stop across the street. So Officer Kinney contacts the man and realizes pretty quickly that the serial number on the bike had been conveniently covered up. After talking to the man a bit, it also became apparent that something was suspicious when the man gave someone else's name and not used his own. Officer Kinney thought this was all kind of suspicious as well. And after this was all sorted out, turns out the bike was reported stolen previously, and we ended up charging the man with possession of stolen property. So for her actions and what Anita coined, I believe when we talked on the phone, the great bike caper, there we go, we're proud to present her with the Citizen Service Citation.
Helping us out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so if I could call up Miss Sarah Brinkley, Josie Jones, Kim Hughes, and I think I'm saying this correctly, Lila Param. Did I say that correctly? No? That's why I asked. Is it Lila? Lila. Okay, good. I've got to say it a few more times, so I want to make sure I have it correctly. While out for a walk with her dog last October, Josie Jones heard crackling sounds coming from the Carmel condos in downtown Edmonds. She realized there was a fire and jumped right into action. She found a unit that was on fire and started helping to get the resident out of the smoke-filled room. This resident was reluctant to leave because of her pet. Two other people also assisted in getting the residents out of the condo. That would be Kim Hughes and Leela, I did it right that time, okay, Param, who is a resident at the condo herself. They both ran around to make sure everyone had gotten out safely. Kim went so far as even giving up her shoes to someone that had to leave quickly because they didn't have time to get them on the way out the door. Sarah Brinkley is the lead custodian for the city of Edmonds and realized that people would need a place to go while the fire department made sure everything was safe. She unlocked city buildings nearby, providing everybody with a warm, safe evacuation spot. After the fire was put out, Leela, I'm going to mess that up all night. Leela, that was the pause there, opened her condo unit to the fire department, and it became a base of operations for them as they wrapped everything up. Because of their willingness to get involved, these women helped prevent what could have been more tragic and lent support to those who needed it. For their efforts, the Edmonds Police Department is proud to present them with the Citizen Service Citation.
Totally spontaneous photo.
The chief has never found a photo he's not willing to be a part of. You know it's true.
You can be replaced.
Also true. So this year we have a couple of noteworthy events to mention. The first is to bring attention to life-saving efforts of members of the department. For the last 3 years, our officers have been carrying these with them, and if you look up on the screen, it goes by the brand name Narcan, and it's a genuine lifesaver for anyone who has overdosed on opioids. To date, the Edmonds Police Department has recorded 8 lives saved due to our officers using it out in the field. Because of their efforts, that's 8 families that did not have to endure the loss of a loved one. And we'd like to applaud them for their life-saving work. And I would also like to call up Officer Jason Robinson. So our second noteworthy event involves Officer Jason Robinson, who, if you have attended award ceremonies in the past, is no stranger to being up front. That's true. We recently were contacted by the Linwood Police Department, who notified us of their intent to honor Jason Robinson with a letter of commendation from their agency. They presented his award during a small presentation ceremony at our department, which led Officer Robinson to think that he would be getting out of being the center of attention. He should have known better. Officer Robinson was recognized for his help as a crisis negotiator with an armed suicidal man in a hotel parking lot. The man was sitting in his car and had a handgun held to his chest. For 3 hours, Officer Robinson helped negotiate with the man and also talked to his family members. For all of his efforts, he was recognized with a letter of commendation from the Linwood Police Department, and something we wanted to recognize here this evening. Thank you, Officer Robinson, for your continued service not only to Edmonds, but to the surrounding communities. Thank you. So our next award is the Letter of Commendation, and it is awarded to department employees or officers from another law enforcement agency who perform particularly noteworthy acts or service based on determined and intelligence performance. So I'd like to call up Sergeant Ken Ploger and Officer Brian McIntyre. That was a big sigh.
Happy to be here.
Last July, our dispatch center received a call from a distraught husband who had serious concerns about his wife. She had sent him seriously concerning text messages and pictures indicating she had already committed suicide. Sergeant Ploger and Officer McIntyre responded to the woman's address and found her inside a car in the driveway. She was bleeding badly from a self-inflicted wound to her neck. They began first aid measures by applying pressure to the wound. While doing so, the woman reached for a knife that was on the front passenger seat. Both officers were inside the vehicle, which is a very enclosed space, with someone that needed life-saving medical assistance, and she was now trying to arm herself. Officer McIntyre was able to secure the weapon and stop her movements, while Sergeant Ploger continued to render medical aid. They held her there until aid crews arrived to deliver advanced medical care. Both officers put themselves in danger to help someone that was unable and unwilling to help herself. And for their efforts, we're proud to present them with the letter of commendation. There you go, more chief photos. So you get to come up later.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to call up Officer Tyler Steffens. So by our calculations, Officer Tyler Steffens has been here for about 10 minutes. He's one of our newest officers, but that hasn't stopped him from earning his first letter of commendation award. In fact, this stems from an incident he was involved with before he even went to the police academy. Officer Steffens was out on a ride-along with Officer Gagner, being shown what a typical patrol day would look like for him, and he got a pretty big eye-opener. While responding to a shoplift call, Officer Gagner found the suspect and his girlfriend leaving the area on foot. He stopped them, and once he told the suspect he was being detained, the suspect turned on Officer Gagner. Now, it's important to point out that this particular suspect was 6'3" and weighed about 230 pounds. Officer Gagner had more than his hands full with this suspect, and that was before his girlfriend got angry and tried to jump in as well. Officer Steffens kept her at bay and then jumped into the struggle with the suspect, who had been fighting for some time already. Thanks to Officer Steffens stepping in, they were able to get the suspect into custody. Officer Gagner noted in his letter about this event that Officer Steffens displayed the type of composure he would expect from a seasoned officer, and for his actions were pleased to award him with the letter of commendation. And at this time, we'd like to call up Detective Andy Mell. "2018 was a very busy year for Detective Mell. The year before, he had taken over as our crimes against person detective. That means he would take lead on serious assault cases and homicide investigations. He had no idea going into this what 2018 would hold in store for him. On January 6th, we had our first homicide investigation of the year. A 27-year-old man was shot inside a residence in the north part of the city. The crowd that we encountered there was less than cooperative. Detective Mell was the lead investigator for this investigation, and through interviews, he was able to come up with a location where the suspect was hiding, and he was quickly arrested. The investigation was so thorough and well done, the suspect pled guilty to murder within a month of his arrest. And if you follow criminal cases, you know they usually drag on for very long periods of time. Our second homicide investigation occurred on November 30th. A teenage girl was shot by an acquaintance at her apartment, and the male suspect had fled the scene. Once again, Detective Mell was the lead investigator. Through tips, the suspect was located hiding out with a friend, and Detective Mell was there to help take him into custody and interview him. The suspect was booked and will ultimately stand trial as an adult. 2 weeks after that, Detective Mell had yet another homicide investigation on his hands. A large party ended with a shooting that left one man dead at the Edmond Senior Center. At least 100 people were in attendance, but there were no witnesses that came forward. So you may be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, he had a several-month break between homicide investigations, right? Well, think again. So Detective Mell is also part of the Snohomish County Multiple Agency Response Team, a group of seasoned detectives that investigates officer-involved shootings and in-custody deaths. The team has had 7 call-outs in 2018, and Detective Mell was also assigned as lead investigator on an officer-involved shooting during that time frame in Everett. And if that's not enough, he was called out for 18 other serious investigations in 2018 and still had to work on all of his other assigned cases. To say that Detective Mell was busy in 2018 is an understatement. For all his work he put in during the year, we're proud to present Detective Andy Mell with a letter of commendation. And now we'd like to have Sergeant Ploger again, Corporal Yamani, Officer Gagner, Officer Borst, and Officer Wong. Yes, Earl, you have to come up front. As you may have figured out from how busy Detective Mel was in 2018, we've had more than our usual number of homicides for that year. On December 14th, Corporal Yamani and Officer Gagner were sitting down the street from the Edmonds Senior Center. They had already been there checking on a very large party that we'd received calls about. At 11:45 p.m., they heard several gunshots come from the Senior Center, and 3 subjects ran from the parking lot toward Officer Gagner's car. One of them was stuffing something into his waistband. They jumped in a car and fled, despite Officer Gagner ordering them to stop. He pursued the vehicle onto Edmonds Way, all the way up to 100th Avenue West, where they finally stopped and were detained with the assistance of other officers, including Officer Josh Wong. Corporal Yamani responded into the Senior Center right after the shooting, along with Sergeant Ploger, and they took control of the area and started dealing with the crowd of over 100 that were frantically trying to leave. I think they described it as bumper cars in the parking lot. After helping with the end of the pursuit, Officer Wong, who happens to be one of our canine officers, spent a lot of time with his partner, Ace, trying to locate evidence that may have been discarded during the pursuit. This was a very large event. By the time our detective unit arrived, 20 Edmonds officers were involved. Over 35 law enforcement officers from throughout Snohomish County, including 6 straight troopers, had also responded to this one event. And while everybody played a key role, these 5 were selected because of the role they played in the initial stages of an in-progress homicide call. And for their efforts, the Edmonds Police Department's awarding Sergeant Ken Ploger, Corporal Uri Yamani, Officer Sam Gagner, Officer Dietrich Borst, and Officer Josh Wong with a letter of commendation. Each year, one of our members is recognized as the Non-Commissioned Employee of the Year. This employee is nominated by fellow department employees and is reflective of the recipient's significant achievement and dedication. American Legion Post 66 is here, and they've been a strong supporter of the Edmonds Police Department. In past years, they've provided us an annual law enforcement appreciation dinner, and more recent years, they've been partners with us as we recognize our employees of the year. With us this evening, we have Commander Les Abel and Adjutant Commander Dave Moline, if you would please come forward. And also in attendance tonight, we have Greg and Claire Walderman. Thank you. And at this time, we'd like to call up Domestic Violence Coordinator Jill Schick. Oh, that's not it. There's a whole reading that entails this. Yeah, we're not done yet. Yeah. Jill Schick has been the domestic violence coordinator for both the Edmonds Police Department and the Mill Creek Police Department for the past 5 years. This means she's had to provide domestic violence services to victims in 2 cities, which are 10 miles apart, work out of 2 different buildings, 2 different court systems, deal with different prosecutors, and 2 complete sets of patrol officers, which, trust me, that's a handful, all in 20 hours a week. This time has been split between Edmonds and Mill Creek. In just 14 hours per week, working in Edmonds, she is efficient enough with her time to review and reach out to those involved in over 500 domestic violence cases each year. Jill contacts each domestic violence victim on cases that have been charged. She works with victims to review the case, explain the judicial process, discuss safety plans, and offer resources. She is to walk a fine line between advocacy for the victim and her role in assisting with the prosecution of domestic violence cases. In order to provide the level of service that she feels our residents deserve, she'll make schedule adjustments and work outside of her regularly scheduled shifts. A perfect example of the service that Jill provides is demonstrated in the work she's put into one particular case. For the last 5 years, Jill has worked with the victim and their family on a harassment and stalking case. This includes updating them about the status of the case, working with them on long-term safety plans, and attending all of the court hearings. A big part of Jill's role is education. Not only does she educate domestic violence victims and their families about what to expect with the judicial system, she also educates future mental health professionals. Because of her education and her experience, Jill is requested to come in and speak to college students that are majoring in social work and doing internships. This is facilitated by a local mental health professional who also works with them as interns. In addition to that, Jill has been a repeat guest on the local media Q&A segments we film, as well as being here for our annual open house. Jill also attends several charity events that support local domestic violence causes in Snohomish County. She has worked with our police foundation to make sure that there are donated emergency resources available to domestic violence victims, and she's also been a regular participant at the local Shop with a Cop events. To top it all off at the end of the year, Jill received her credentials from the National Advocate Credentialing Program. She was recognized as an advanced advocate specializing in domestic violence and sexual assault intervention. This is their highest level of certification within the organization, and she clearly deserves it. What Jill manages to accomplish in her time each week is simply amazing. We frequently hear from victims and their families about how appreciative they are of her work with them and her level of professionalism. And we are certainly appreciative of her work as well. And at this time, we are proud to present her with the plaque as the Edmonds Police Department Non-Commissioned Employee of the Year. Oh, there's always more.
So here's a plaque from the police department and a badge to mount on the plaque. Yeah, if you want to put her on tonight, you can put her on tonight, just for tonight. But non-commissioned employee of the year, and also your so I don't know how we're going to juggle all this. And then we'll smile again.
Pose for the impromptu photo with the chief. I did. Good. Okay, each year one of our members is recognized as the Officer of the Year. And this employee is nominated by fellow department employees, then selected by previous recipients of the award. This award is reflective of the recipient's significant achievements and dedications. It's given to a full-time, fully commissioned police officer. This year's Officer of the Year is Officer Sierra Swartz. Now, she's at training tonight and couldn't be with us, so she is on the big screen for everybody's entertainment, hopefully. And we have her Skyped in. So, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can we turn that up a little bit? Well, we don't require a speech from you, so as long as you can hear us, give us the thumbs up and we're good. Okay, perfect. All right. So she is with us live from beautiful Wenatchee right now. This year's selection of the Chief David N. Stern Memorial Officer of the Year Award, as I mentioned, is Officer Sierra Swartz. There we go. The best part is she had no idea she was Officer of the Year. We actually trick our Employee and Officer of the Year nominees by sending them a letter, and they think they're getting a much different award. And then I contact their family members behind their backs when they don't know. So I talked to your husband already, so he knows as well. That's why we really wanted to make sure we could Skype you in tonight. Officer Swartz has been a member of our traffic unit since August of 2017. She's made quite an impression with the motoring public during that time, especially those who feel that it's acceptable to drink and drive. Here are some sobering statistics for you, courtesy of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You like that pun? Okay, all right, there's more. Every day in the U.S., 30 people die in drunk driving crashes. That's one person every 48 minutes and 10,000 a year. That's just alcohol-related deaths. When you consider fatalities caused by drug-induced impairment, the numbers go even higher. Since she started in the traffic unit, Officer Sierra Swartz has arrested over 103 impaired drivers. That's 103 people off the road that didn't get the chance to crash into someone and hurt them, or worse, kill them. Officer Swartz has earned her certification as a drug recognition expert, which helps her identify drivers who are impaired by illegal or prescription drugs and should not be driving. In fact, she's at recertification class tonight, which she could not get out of, hence the Skyping. That's why she's not here tonight. I already had that down. While her work arresting DUI drivers alone is probably enough to recognize her as the Officer of the Year, she's also been active as a leader and a mentor. Officer Swartz is a field training officer. She's trained several students over the past year. DUI arrests are complicated and can be overwhelming for new officers. Officer Swartz, through her training, has managed to demystify the DUI arrest and light a fire in our newest officers to take as many of them off the road as possible. In fact, when I talk to new officers that she has trained, you can hear the level of excitement when they talk to you about the last DUI arrest they made and how they need to keep a constant eye out for them. And she has clearly influenced the next generation of officers through her training and tenacity. She was also recently recognized as the Drug Recognition Expert of the Year for Snohomish County for 2018. Based on her tireless work taking dangerous drivers off the road and her leadership and training of our new officers, the Edmonds Police Department is proud to name Officer Sierra Swartz as Police Officer of the Year. So this is also one of those awards where there's multiple parts. So also, and in years past, the American Legion has bestowed their special award to our Officer of the Year. So when you get back, we have a small hand truck of trophies for you to take.
All right.
This is our first time Skyping people in, so bear with us while we work out the bugs. The department's Officer of the Year Award was renamed in 2008 as the Chief David N. Stern Memorial Officer of the Year Award to reflect the level of professional service provided by Chief Stern to the Edmonds Police Department. Chief Stern passed away on April 25th, 2007. With us tonight from the Noontime Rotary Club of Edmonds is Mr. Doug Purcell and Miss Amy Armstrong. And Mr. Doug Purcell will be making some remarks. Thank you, Doug.
Congratulations to all the honorees tonight. My name is Doug Purcell, and I'm a past president of the Edmonds Rotary Club. In 2007, just a couple of months prior to taking over as president of our club, and on his way home from one of our Tuesday meetings, Chief David Stern was taken from us by a brain aneurysm. David had been a committed member of our club, active in many club events, willing to put on a tuxedo to MC a auction or put on a work belt to work on our transitional housing. He had a real commitment to Rotary, an organization started in Chicago in 1905 and now comprised of more than 1,300,000 members and 33,000 clubs in over 200 countries. Rotary, shortly after its founding, became a service organization committed to improving the lives of people around the world. For example, the recent participation of the Gates Foundation has shone a media light on world progress in eradicating the polio virus. What often gets overlooked is that Rotary started the polio eradication project in 1985 and has donated more than $700 billion to bringing this world this close to complete freedom from that dread disease. On a local level, our club, over its 68-year history, has done such community projects as bringing the first Medic 7 van to Edmonds and rehabilitating the Boys and Girls Club building. Working with Rick Steves and YWCA, we have helped provide and maintain 26 apartment units for women and their children in transition, many escaping from domestic violence. In the next few weeks, we will present $1,500 college scholarships to several graduating seniors from Meadowdale, Edmonds Woodway, and Schreiber Lake High School. What does all this have to do with tonight? In recognition of David's significance to Rotary and our club, we worked with Dave's wife, Darlene, then acting chief Compan, and the city to identify an appropriate way to recognize David's contributions to our club and the community. What better way to remember Dave than by honoring each year an Edmonds police officer who exemplifies the integrity, stalwartness, and willingness to serve that were the hallmarks of David Stern. We have, as part of the award, a permanent plaque which resides in the police station, and also a personal gift for the Officer of the Year. To quote from one of the nominations letters for Officer Schwartz, the recipient should be someone who shows up day in and day out and demonstrates great work ethic, strong morals, and makes a positive impact on our community and profession, not just on one call, but throughout the entire year in review. These are all traits to which we aspire as Rotarians, and it is my great pleasure to present Officer Sierra Schwartz with the Rotary Club of Edmonds David M. Stern Officer of the Year Award.
Thank you.
We didn't know there'd be birds chirping in the background. Are you in an aviary or someplace, or?
Yeah, sorry, I'm outside of a restaurant.
Guess that works.
Sierra, I have my back to the audience here, but we wanted to just talk into the camera for just a moment and congratulate you. Thank you so much for your service. It sounds like you had a little too much for dinner tonight.
You can't make this up, folks.
Sierra. Whatever that noise was, that was interesting. Congratulations, and very proud to present this to you on behalf of the Edmonds Police Department. The Officer of the Year Award to Officer Sierra Swartz. There's no one more deserving of it than you. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
All right, and with that, that is our last award for the night. So I will turn the podium back over to the chief, which means probably no photos of him at this point moving forward.
All right, we're done with photos. See, we have a young officer here, so this is always such a special night for us here in the police department, for the community, as well as being able to remember those in our profession who have gone before us. We appreciate the efforts of our own employees, our fellow law enforcement officers, and our residents and volunteers for all that is done throughout the year to promote our law enforcement mission and to maintain the quality of life here in our community through public safety. And I invite the audience at this time to please rise, and in a moment we will hear taps being played by retired Senior Animal Control Officer Debbie Dawson, who retired several years ago, but she is known for her talent around the Puget Sound area for making such positive contributions to memorial events. And you will hear her talent here in just a moment. And as TAPS begins, it is appropriate for uniformed personnel to come to a position of attention and for all of us to place our hand over our heart. When TAPS concludes, we will all lower our hands but remain standing to reflect during a moment of silence for fallen police officers. Officer Dawson. You may be seated as we conclude this evening. Thank you, Officer Dawson. As mentioned earlier, this marks the 18th Annual Awards Ceremony, and this is the first time that the man who started this, Officer Bill Nelson, has not been able to join us. He's gravely ill with cancer. He is absolutely here in spirit with us tonight. So it's a bittersweet time for us this evening. I wanted to pay special honor to him for all he has done. He conceived this 18 years ago, and we're here this evening. This is a legacy of his, not only when he was an active member of the department, but will continue to be a legacy for Officer Nelson. So please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. And before we conclude, I want to also give special thanks to Ms. Carolyn Thompson, my executive assistant, who's sitting over here, always helping out, orchestrating the order of the awards and getting everything together, the certificates and the plaques and the badges. I also want to recognize Sergeant Shane Hawley for putting together the program this evening. We have several greeter volunteers. We have Police Explorer Bror Ekdahl, who's at the door, Brenner Schick, McKenna Schick, our noontime Rotary volunteers, Amy Armstrong, Kathy Pruitt, Michael Keeley, and then Jerry Bevington helped us out with the video tonight, and David Rohde ably helped us out getting Officer Swartz Skyped in. So with that, thank you so much. It's an honor to have you here with us tonight. It's my honor to be the chief of this fine group of men and women, both commissioned and non-commissioned, who we recognize tonight. And this community is very fortunate to have the group that we have. And I'm just proud as can be to stand up here before you tonight. So please join us for some refreshments. Hang around for a little bit. Say hi to the officers that are here. Thank you, and God bless you. Have a great evening.